Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, I'm excited for this one. We are getting into the real nitty-gritty, a super crucial part of negotiation, bargaining hard.
Yes. Chapter 9 of Never Split the Difference. We've talked about building rapport, understanding the other side, but now it's time for the actual offers, the back and forth.
And let's be honest, this is the bit that makes a lot of us squirm a little, right?
Yeah.
So our goal today is to cut through that anxiety. We want to give you, our listeners, some really clear, usable insights.
Make you feel confident in that phase. And the chapter kicks off with a great little story, doesn't it? The author wanting that specific Toyota 4Runner, the salsa red pearl one.
Yeah. It just shows how, even when we think we're being logical, there's this emotional pull, this investment in what we want.
Exactly. It sets the stage perfectly.
So our mission today, pull out the absolute key strategies for bargaining successfully. We're moving past the initial chat, the mirroring, and diving deep into how you actually secure the deal you want.
Right, that moment where the friendly chat shifts, and suddenly you're talking numbers, terms.
Yeah.
It's a definite switch in gears.
Yeah, it really is. And like we said, for a lot of people, that switch flips an anxiety switch, or maybe even makes them get a bit aggressive without really meaning to.
It's true. All that careful work building rapport feels like it's suddenly on the line. But the key thing, and what the book really emphasizes, is that skilled negotiators, they expect this phase. They even embrace it.
They see it coming. They understand the psychology underneath it all.
Precisely. It's not just gut feeling or, running the numbers. Successful hard bargaining is about understanding these sort of subtle psychological levers that are pulled with every offer and counteroffer.
And a huge part of that is getting a handle on different negotiation styles. People aren't all the same at the table.
Not at all. How we negotiate is shaped by, all sorts of things. And knowing these patterns in ourselves and, importantly, in the person across from us, that's vital.
Okay, so the book breaks it down into three main types: analysts, accommodators, and assertives. Let's tackle the analysts first. What do they look like?
Okay, analysts. Think methodical, think detail-oriented. They're the ones who want to get it right. Thoroughness over speed, always. They hate making mistakes.
So lots of data, lots of logic. They've probably done their homework.
Absolutely. They come prepared. Communication-wise, they can be a bit reserved, maybe speak a little slower, more measured. The book points out this isn't meant to be cold, but sometimes, it can feel that way.
Right. And they're big on reciprocity, aren't they? Like quid pro quo.
Very much so. They'll share, but they expect fair exchange. If they give you a piece of info, they're looking for something comparable back. If they don't get it, trust can dip pretty quickly. Concessions from them are carefully weighed decisions.
Okay, so if you're up against an analyst, rule one is be prepared. Bring your facts, your data. Don't just wing it.
Definitely. And if you disagree, stick to the facts, compare the data points. Oh, and silence. Don't mistake their silence for displeasure. They're probably just thinking, processing.
Good tip. And what about if you're the analyst? Any advice?
Yeah, the book suggests being careful not to get so lost in your data that you kind of cut yourself off from the other person. They're a source of info too. And a simple tip, remember to smile. It just makes you seem a bit more approachable, encourages them to open up.
Makes sense. Okay, next up, the accommodator. What's their deal?
Accommodators are all about the relationship. Building it, keeping it strong, that's priority one. They love continuous communication, talking things through, aiming for that win-win where everyone feels good.
So, super friendly, easy to talk to.
Generally, yes. Very sociable, very focused on harmony. They might even give concessions just to keep things pleasant, hoping you'll do the same later. Optimistic, peace-seeking, maybe sometimes a bit distractible or not the best time managers because they're so focused on the person.
Okay, so negotiating with an accommodator. Mirror that friendliness.
Yeah, match their sociable vibe. Listen really actively to their ideas and use those calibrated questions, especially about how things will work, to help them turn their good intentions into actual steps. Because they value reciprocity so much, sometimes they might agree to things without fully thinking through the implications,
Okay. And if you are an accommodator?
Well, your rapport building is gold, obviously, but don't lose track of your own goals in the process. It's okay to be direct about what you need. Other types need to hear it. And even other accommodators appreciate clarity. And maybe dial back the small talk just a little if the other person isn't responding. Other styles don't always value it as much.
Got it. Right. Third type, the assertive. Sounds intense.
They can be. For assertives, time really is money. Getting things done, achieving results, that's the focus. Their self-image is often tied to their accomplishments. Speed and efficiency are key. maybe sometimes even over getting every single detail perfect.
Okay, so direct, maybe blunt, loves to win.
Pretty much direct, candid, very driven by their goals. They want respect more than necessarily being liked in a business context. The book highlights something really key. They need to feel heard.
Heard.
Yeah. They often can't really take in your perspective until they're convinced you fully understood theirs, so they might talk more than ask questions initially.
Okay, so with an assertive, you need to really show you're listening. Summarize their points, acknowledge them before you jump in with yours.
Exactly. Let them know you get it. And reciprocity. It's different. More like, give an inch, take a mile. If you concede, they might see it as a sign to push for even more. And if they concede, expect them to want something significant back, like right away.
Okay. And if you're the assertive one, watch the tone, I guess.
Definitely. That's the big one. You might not mean to sound aggressive, but it can easily come across that way. The advice is to consciously soften your delivery, use those calibrated questions, use labeling. It helps build bridges instead of walls.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's important to remember, though, right, that these are just categories. Most people are a mix.
Absolutely. Nobody fits perfectly into one box. The real skill is knowing your own tendencies, your sort of default mode, and then learning how to add tools from the other styles to your repertoire. Be yourself, but, enhance yourself.
Which brings us to that I am normal paradox the book talks about. That's a big one.
Huge. It's just human nature, isn't it? We assume everyone else sees things the way we do, approaches problems like we do. But if your counterpart is, say, an analyst and you're an accommodator, your normal ways of interacting are going to be pretty different.
And if you just assume they're like you, you're going to misread things, potentially clash.
Exactly. That's why the book pushes the Black Swan rule, which is basically the golden rule flipped. Don't treat others how you want to be treated. Treat them how they need to be treated, according to their style. It's about adapting to them. The author mentions there's a PDF guide to help spot these types too, which sounds useful.
Right. So, okay, you've maybe got a sense of their style.
Yeah.
Now comes the actual bargaining, and specifically how to handle those opening offers, especially when they're, well, extreme.
Yeah, forget the neat, tidy ZOPA, the zone of possible agreement from classic negotiation theory for a moment. Experienced negotiators often don't start there. They might throw out an extreme anchor.
That really low-ball offer, or maybe a super high asking price.
Exactly. Something way outside what seems reasonable. And the purpose. It's designed to knock you off balance, make you question your own preparation, maybe even jump straight to your bottom line.
It's like that Mike Tyson quote, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That extreme anchor can feel like that punch.
That's a perfect analogy. It can really rattle you if you're not ready, which is why, ideally, you want them to anchor first, let them put the first number out there. It gives you information.
But even knowing that, when that crazy number lands, it's hard not to react emotionally. So how do you handle it? How do you deflect?
Okay, several tactics. First, using no, but not necessarily just the word no. Things like, wow, how am I supposed to accept that? Said calmly, it pushes back without shutting things down.
Okay, like a soft no. What else?
Calibrated questions are key. Redirect the focus. What are we trying to accomplish here? Or how does that figure fit with the market rates we've seen? It makes them justify the anchor.
Nice. Taking the focus off the shocking number itself.
Precisely. Another great move is to pivot away from price altogether, at least for a moment. Okay, let's put price aside for just a second. What else needs to be part of this deal to make it work well for both of us? This can uncover other valuable points.
Or you could ask, okay, that price is challenging. What else could you offer to make that kind of number more feasible for me?
Exactly. Still deflecting, still gathering info. And if you absolutely have to go first, the advice isn't to throw out your own extreme anchor necessarily, but to allude to a really high benchmark elsewhere. Like, well, I know consultants at Harvard Business School can charge X amount per day, just to frame the high end without making a direct demand.
So the goal is always to deflect, stay calm, and use that extreme anchor as an opportunity to learn more.
You got it. Don't react. Respond strategically.
The book tells that story about Farouk, the student negotiating for event funding, right? That seems like a good example.
It's a fantastic example. He needed $600. The dean offered $300. A low anchor.
So what did he do? He didn't just say, no way, did he?
No, he was smart. He acknowledged her budget limits, showed empathy, but then he threw out his own extreme anchor. He said he actually needed $1,000 to do the event properly.
Wow. Okay, so he punch back with his own anchor.
Exactly. It totally reframed the dean's perception. Even when she came up to $500, Farouk didn't bite immediately. He kept negotiating, using his understanding of her constraints, but pushing for his needs.
And ended up getting more than his original target, right? Like $750.
Yep, $737.50, which she rounded up. It shows how you can acknowledge limits, say no indirectly, use an anchor strategically, and just keep working towards your goal. Brilliant stuff.
Okay, but sometimes just deflecting isn't enough. What if the negotiation just hits a wall? Things stall, the other side won't budge. You might need to be a bit more assertive.
Right.
To kind of shake things up.
Yeah, that's when you might need to, as the chapter puts it, punch back, but strategically, of course. Not everyone loves being assertive. It doesn't feel natural for some.
I can see that.
But the point is, these are tools you can learn and use when needed. It's about expanding your toolkit, not becoming someone you're not.
Okay, so what are these assertive tools? How do you use them smartly?
Well, one area is around anger and threats. Now, this is nuanced. Research apparently shows that real controlled anger, like frustration directed at the offer, not the person, can sometimes give you an edge, but faking anger, that usually backfires badly.
So genuine frustration, maybe, but keep it in check. What's strategic umbrage?
That's like a calculated taking of offense. I'm surprised you'd suggest that, given our relationship kind of thing. It can make the other side feel maybe they pushed too hard, but you also need to watch out for them using it on you.
Ah, okay. And threats. Sounds risky.
It's about threats without anger, delivered calmly with poise. A simple, firm, "I'm sorry, that just doesn't work for me," can be incredibly powerful when said with confidence, not hostility.
Right. Sent a clear boundary. What about using why? I thought we were told not to ask why, because it makes people defensive.
Generally, yes, asking why did you do that is bad. But there's a strategic twist. You can use why to get them to argue for your position.
How does that work?
Like, say you want their business. You might ask, why would you ever choose us? Your current supplier seems great.
It sounds crazy, but it prompts them to actually list the reasons why they might switch, defending your value proposition for you.
Huh. That's clever. Counterintuitive.
It is. Another tool is using I statements strategically. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. It focuses on your perspective, sets a boundary, but often feels less confrontational than saying your offer is bad. Again, tone is crucial. Keep it calm, not aggressive.
Okay. And underlying all this is the no neediness thing again. Absolutely fundamental. You have to be genuinely willing to walk away if the deal doesn't meet your minimum requirements. Knowing your bottom line and being prepared to say no thanks, if it's not met, that's maybe the strongest assertion you can make. No deal is better than a bad deal.
It sounds like even when you're being assertive, the goal isn't to burn bridges, right?
Definitely not. The book talks about tough love, being firm, setting boundaries, but doing it with respect, focusing on the issue, not attacking the person. Punching back is really a last resort. And if things get too heated, suggesting a break, a timeout, is always a good de-escalation tactic.
Keep it collaborative if possible.
Always. There's this analogy of a flattened S-curve for negotiation. Sometimes progress stalls, you hit a plateau, you might need that assertive push to get over the hump. But then you need to get back to rapport building to move forward again. The number one rule, really, is never create an enemy if you can avoid it.
Makes total sense. Okay, so for those really tough haggling situations, there's a specific system the chapter introduces, isn't there? The Ackerman model.
Yes, the Ackerman model. Named after Mike Ackerman, an ex-FBI guy, apparently learned during hostage negotiations. Even Howard Rifa, a giant in negotiation theory, supposedly endorsed it for pretty much any situation.
So it's tried and tested. What's the core idea?
It's basically a structured offer-counteroffer system designed to stop negotiations just settling predictably in the middle, which often leaves money or value on the table for one or both sides.
Okay, how does it work? You said 6 steps.
6 steps. Okay, step 1. Set your target price. Your actual goal, be ambitious.
Got it. Target price.
Step 2. Make your first offer at 65% of that target. Yes, 65. It's meant to be an extreme anchor.
Whoa, okay, 65%? That is low.
Right. Step 3. Plan out 3 more offers, but with decreasing increments. So the first raise takes you to maybe 85% of your target, the next to 95%, and the final one hits your 100% target. The jumps get smaller each time.
Okay, 65 then raises to 85, 95, 100%. Decreasing jumps.
Step 4 is crucial. Use lots of empathy. Use different ways of saying no, like we talked about, to get them to counter before you make your next planned raise. Don't just jump up without getting something back.
Make them work for it, feel like they're pulling concessions.
Exactly. Step 5. When you make your offers, especially that final one, use precise non-round numbers. Think $37,893 instead of $38,000.
Why the weird number?
It gives the impression you've done meticulous calculations, that you've sharpened your pencil down to the absolute nub. It says, this is it. This is my limit.
Okay, precise non-round numbers, and the last step.
Step 6. On that final offer, your 100% target number, the precise non-round one, throw in a non-monetary item. Something they probably don't really want or need, something that costs you little or nothing.
Like what? A branded coffee mug?
Maybe. Or offering to include some old report you have lying around. It just signals, look, I am tapped out on price, but here's this one last little thing I can possibly do. Reinforces that you're at your absolute limit.
Okay, so target, 65% anchor, decreasing raises, 85, 95, 100. Use empathy O to get counters, precise final number, add a non-monetary throw-in. That's the Ackerman model.
That's it. And the psychology behind it is pretty smart.
The 65% is the anchor, obviously. Shocks them a bit, pulls the range down.
Right. And those decreasing raises, that plays on reciprocity. They feel like they're winning concessions from you, dragging you up. And because the concessions get smaller, it feels like they're squeezing out the very last drop. Research shows people feel better about a deal if they feel they fought for concessions.
Even if the final price isn't that different from where it might have ended up otherwise.
Sometimes, yeah. Process matters. And that non-round number thing, it really works. The book mentions getting a kidnapped victim released for $4,751. That final dollar, $4,751 instead of $4,750, seems tiny. But it adds credibility that it's a calculated limit.
Like retail pricing, $9.99 instead of $10. Same idea.
Exactly the same psychological principle.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful framework. The chapter uses another student example for this, right? Monsieur were negotiating his rent.
Yes, another great practical example. Mashiri's rent was $1,850. Landlord wanted to bump it to $2,100.
Ouch.
His target was to get it down to $8,830.
So what did he do first? Research, I bet.
You bet. He checked comparable apartment prices nearby. Then, talking to the agent, he started positive good tenant, always paid on time, then hit them with the calibrated question, how am I supposed to afford an extra $200 a month?
Nice start. Did he anchor low?
He did. His first offer was the $7,730, a pretty extreme anchor compared to the $2,100 asking price.
Okay, and then did he just wait for a counter?
He actually used more calibrated questions first, like, okay, help me understand, how do you guys figure out renewal prices? Trying to understand their logic, find weaknesses.
Smart. Keep digging.
Then, interestingly, he made a second offer, $790 before they even countered his first one. The book notes this is unusual, but Mashiri felt he had momentum, so he improvised.
Shows you got to read the room. Adapt the model sometime.
Absolutely. He kept using no without saying no, bringing up his research. How can I accept that when places down the street are going for $1,800? Labeling their position as difficult for him.
And then he finished with the Ackerman steps.
Pretty much. He made more offers, apparently even pretended to do some calculations to justify them, and his final offer, a very precise $1,829.
$1 below his target.
Exactly. And guess what? They accepted $1,829. It worked.
That's brilliant. It shows how you can weave all these things together. The Ackerman structure, the non-round numbers, the research, the labeling, the calibrated questions, saying no. It's not just one trick.
It's the whole playbook used intelligently. Mashiri's story really brings those hard bargaining takeaways to life.
Okay, so let's quickly recap those main takeaways for handling the tough bargaining phase.
Right. First, figure out who you're dealing with. Try to identify their negotiation style, endless accommodator, assertive, so you can adapt.
Second, prepare. Know your ambitious goal. Plan your labels, your questions, how you might respond to their moves.
Third, brace yourself to take a punch. Expect they might use an extreme anchor, and have your deflection tactics ready, the how am I supposed to, the calibrated questions, pivoting.
Fourth, know how to set boundaries. Learn to assert yourself calmly when needed, using those I statements, maybe even controlled anger or poised threats, but always focusing on the issue, not the person. And remember, you can walk away.
And finally, for really structured haggling, have an Ackerman plan in your back pocket. Extreme anchor, 65%, calibrated questions, those decreasing incremental offers, ending on a precise non-round number, maybe with that little non-monetary extra.
Fantastic. Mastering these techniques feels like it could genuinely make a huge difference in, well, pretty much any negotiation.
It really can, whether it's a multi-million-dollar deal or just, negotiating your rent like missionary.
So we really encourage you, the listener, to think about this. What's your natural style? Where could you maybe add some of these other tools? How can you start practicing these things, even in small ways?
And maybe a final thought to chew on. Now that you've got a better handle on these hard bargaining tactics,
Uh,
how is that going to change how you walk into your next negotiation, whether it's big or small?
Something to definitely think about. We have only just scratched the surface here, folks. There is so much more gold in Never Split the Difference. So please join us next time as we dive into another powerful concept from the book. It's going to give you a real edge.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.